Hey guys, welcome back to tonight's episode of LO8. Let's get back to it. Our feature film, Keep Climbing, a Sean Swarner story.
After climbing Everest, I got bit by the climbing bug, and I just wanted to keep climbing and prove to people that anything's truly possible. And decided, what the next step, obviously, would be to do the 7 summits.
For someone to finish the goal of 7 summits takes a serious amount of planning, takes a serious amount of fortitude. The 7 summits are the highest peak on each continent. They might not be technically the hardest mountain on each continent, but they're certainly an endurance feat. It's not just one mountain, it's not one project, something that you can almost wrap your whole head around. It's sort of embracing this travelogue around the world, and I think it's an interesting variety of problems.
So by May of 2007, I had completed all the summits except for Denali. I attempted Denali the year before and failed. Actually fell 100 feet. I remember shooting down the mountain, and I was roped up to my partner. Obviously, I tried to self-arrest with my eyesight, just rolled over and dug it in the snow. And for me, all I remember is snow shooting up between my face and my glacier glasses. And it was in slow motion for me. And for my climbing partner, who I was roped to, said it was just fast-forwarded. I got my wits about me, shook off my glacier glasses, headed back up to where I was, climbed up a little bit higher, belayed him in, and by that time, my adrenaline stopped. I was shaking. My whole body was just twitching. I was really scared. I was like, all right, dude, we have to go back down. we have to get off this mountain. The second time on the mountain, we hit base camp May 1st, and we headed right back up to the exact same spot where I fell the year before. And I didn't fall this time, but we continued up a little bit higher, came back to camp, and we just sat there and waited for, I think it was a week and a half. We started running out of food up at 17 camp. It was 40 below as a high, 55 mile an hour winds. Any exposed skin, you'll lose that in 2 minutes forever. Your skin will turn black and be gone. Thinking about it after we retreated off the mountain, I didn't know if I was going to go back up again. I thought maybe that was it.
He came back down from Denali. He was very sad. He might I even say depressed that he didn't make it. This is the first time I've seen him like that in a long time. It's almost like he was sick again. In my head, he was sick.
Hopefully, right around there is Camp 2. But she's looking beautiful today. Man.
Sean's 7th, huh?
This is his 7th.
That's awesome.
Cancer climber.
Third time for Denali.
Yeah.
It's harder than Everest.
Yeah. Spent more time on it. Crazy. Da-da-da! Da-da!
Well, when I hit that summit ridge and I could look up and I could see the summit, and even though we're over 20,000 feet, I started running towards the summit. I didn't care how out of breath I got. The weather couldn't have been more perfect. It couldn't have been more beautiful. It was almost like that day was reserved for me getting to the top with everybody else. And it was just absolutely fantastic. If you could take every emotion you've ever had, put it into a tiny little ball, and just explode it all at once, in a millisecond, that's what it kind of felt like.
Hope you're enjoying the show so far. We are featuring Keep Climbing, a fantastic story about Sean Swarner here. And thanks again for hanging out here, and I hope you're enjoying your time here on set. It's good to have you in here.
Yeah, well, thanks. Next time I'm going to come back and cook you guys breakfast and bring my beer.
I think that's the plan, and we're going to hold you to it. I can't wait for that. Yeah, this guy, multifaceted, not just like a professional climber and climbing all over the world and constantly doing things, but he finds some time to brew his own beer, which is also very impressive. Would like to try some of that. But
It's a
anyway,
buy.
let's get back to the movie. We're coming back out of your whole travels for the 7 highest continents or mountains in all the continents, and we're going to get to our closing portion here first. But let's talk about some of what it took to get some of this production done. Because when you're out in these remote locations, it's got to be tough to say, well, especially when it's 60 below, like you're saying, let's get the camera rolling, let's take my glove off and set this up. I mean, that can't be easy.
Yeah, when I initially started filming a lot of the footage, I had a mini HD camera, and one of the things, believe it or not, we were worried about was the tape itself being so cold it was going to crack and break.
Yeah, some of the moving parts just not being able to operate in that kind of
So we were
condition.
really concerned about that stuff. But now with the digital format, it's a lot easier. But a lot of the filming took place, obviously, on location in the different continents.
Right.
The interviews happened down in Denver, and a lot of the action scenes that you see of me directly were as a crow flies. How far is Torres from here? 30 miles as a crow flies, maybe? Mm-hmm. Filming up there with a local company from Evergreen, great people, and Marmot was a huge supporter of that.
Yeah,
so
nice.
It all tied together, taking bits and pieces from here, and putting it all together to make some magic, I
And
suppose.
it's about, really till the time of your first diagnosis is how long this whole story took. to
That's a
this
good point.
Yeah. And we also don't just see you, we see some other people in the
Yep,
interviews. Who are these people talking about you?
These amazing people who, obviously, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
Right.
It was my mom, my brother, and you see another guy named Fabrizio. He's a good friend of mine, good climber. Good climber is an understatement. But the one person that wasn't on there that I really wish would have made the cut was my dad. And we did some filming for ESPN, and it was kind of funny because he got cut out, and the only person that really wanted to be on ESPN was my dad.
Yeah.
But looking back at it, going through what I went through, the 2 cancers, Everest, the climbs, everything, and anybody who's going through any traumatic experience, period, it's really important to have that family support, that cohesiveness of a group. And it's really nice to have that net that if you do fall, no pun intended with the climbing, but if you do fall, they're there to catch you. And it could be your family, it could be your friends. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, like myself too, we have close friends who are like family. And those are the people who really support you. People who, you can tell them, hey, by the way, I'm going to go climb Everest in 9 months, and I have 0 climbing experience. And they look at you and tell you the truth.
Tell me about that, though, too. What kind of response were you getting when you're actually starting to tell people, I'm going to do this, I'm going to climb Everest? Was it more positive than negative?
Well...
Or did you just hear a lot of back? I know not everyone was on board with this idea.
No, hell
There's
no.
no way. Yeah.
The way my brother and I showed my mom and dad, or we told them that I was going to climb Everest, was my brother put together the Cancer Climber website. We sat him down in front of a computer and we went to the bar. We had a couple drinks, came back, when we heard, boys, get up here. Like, what? What are you doing? But, it was back and forth. There were people that absolutely loved it, people who thought it was nuts, but the best thing about having that close-knit group of friends and family are, they can look at you and tell you, hey, you're absolutely freaking nuts, but I'm going to support you.
Right.
And that's the best type of friend to have, the best family support you can have. Telling someone the honest truth and you not being offended by it, but that person coming back and saying, okay, but I know you're going to do this, so I'm going to support you. And I'm really fortunate to have that. The people who tell me their true feelings and thoughts, me not take offense to them, and them turning around saying, okay, I know you're going to do this, I'm going to support you. How can I help?
Yeah. So after Everest and the rest of the 7 peaks, what keeps you going and wanting to keep doing more of these types of projects and adventures, whether it's an Ironman?
Did that.
You did what you did, or anything else?
It could be tied in with the fact that I do brew beer. And I partake a little bit too much sometimes and come up with these stupid ideas. But honestly, I have this notion of like a circle of hope, a circle of inspiration. And when I'm climbing, which represents the top part of the circle, me going up in the mountains, me doing the Hawaii Ironman, I have the New York City Marathon November 3rd. And when I think of what I'm doing and I hit a hard time, I think of the people who represent the bottom part of the circle, who are battling for their lives, who can't get out of bed. who are fighting for their lives, who really don't have any hope or inspiration. So I get my hope and inspiration from them, and when I come back, I visit them in the hospital, returning that inspiration. And I have a saying that the human body can live for roughly 30 days without food. The human condition can sustain itself for roughly 3 days without water, but no human alive can live for more than 30 seconds without hope, because without hope, we truly have nothing. So I think I get my inspiration, my hope, from all those people touched by cancer, and I push myself to keep moving forward.
When somebody asks you, what do you do for a living? What do you say to that?
I kind of look at them with a blank stare on my face and think, where the hell do I even begin?
Well, sure, it's impressive with the amount of things that you take on in a given year or even in a month for you. So with that, and since you are so busy, tell us a little bit more about what you are trying to take on here in the future with some of your projects and adventures.
For me personally, I'm excited to continue doing the 7 summits, because if you look at the continent, and if you look at Australia, and I'll show it so you can see, Australia down here, New Zealand down here, Indonesia up there. If you look at the continent, some people include Indonesia and New Zealand as part of the continent of Australia.
Right, okay.
So I'm going to climb the highest mountain in Indonesia, which is Papua New Guinea, called Karsten's Pyramid. It's like a 16,000-foot rock climb. Pretty treacherous, but I'm excited to do it.
Yeah.
And then there's Mount Cook in New Zealand. Never been to New Zealand, so I'm excited to do that too. And then after that, hopefully I get those done this year. Next year, 2014, I'll have the South Pole and then the North Pole. So trekking 50 miles to the South Pole. And one of the things I'm excited about is I want to call back using my satellite phone to the hospital and talk to a cancer patient every day I'm there. So there's going to be 50 different cancer patients I'm going to be reaching out to. And then when I come home, have some sort of reunion somewhere. Mm-hmm. Like a welcome home party. But everybody's involved, because it's not just like cancer, it's not an individual disease, and you don't do all these expeditions on your own. It's impossible to do it by yourself. So on top of that, we'll use that as a fundraiser to put money into a mobile camp for kids with cancer. We haven't come up with a creative name for it yet, so if you guys come up with anything, it's going to be a semi-truck that literally unfolds to 6,700 square feet and travels around the country visiting children's hospitals and giving them a weekend-long camp.
And we'll get to see a good representation of that coming up in the next segment of the
Yep.
film. If someone is watching this and they want to find out more about what you do and your next projects, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can go to a bunch of different places now with social media, but they can find me on Facebook. Mm-hmm. They can find me on Twitter. I think it's @SeanSwarner, and then Facebook's just Sean Swarner. And I tell people it's like Sean Connery, and then Swarner, the Warner Brothers with an S.
There you go.
So you can go there, or the best place is cancerclimber.org.
So again, the website, cancerclimber.org, great resource to keep in touch and follow what you're doing. Tell us a little bit, though. I mean, you're a Summit County resident.
Yep.
How long
Love
have
it
you
here.
lived up here?
Wow, I've lived in Breckenridge and Silverthorne, I think 4 or 5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what do you like about the county? I mean, what keeps you here?
Oh, I mean, what's there not to like about the county?
Yeah, that's
There are the
well put.
beautiful mountains here. Training is right out my back door. I got Ptarmigan is my backyard. I can drive for 20 minutes and be on Quandary. Training wise, I run up and down Quandary.
And are you still on an everyday training regimen? Like you were talking about getting ready for some of these other climbs. You're doing it like every day.
I wouldn't say I'm on an everyday
Okay.
schedule, because I just suffered a calf injury too for training for the marathon. But when I am training for something big, I'm definitely doing something every day.
Wow.
And believe it or not, part of that training is drinking too.
Okay.
Beer and pizza, because you have to put on the weight.
There you go. Okay.
And it
that's
simulates
the
the
benefit
confusion in altitude.
of that. All right. Well, that might just inspire me alone just to start maybe thinking about training for a marathon, which I've never really even thought about doing. I get tired walking in the refrigerator. So you are incredibly impressive to keep doing that sort of thing. If somebody's catching this interview tonight and they are interested in getting you a name like that, what's the best way to do something?
Again, they can send me a name on either Facebook or Twitter, email, which is easiest, Sean@cancerclimber.org.
Okay.
But the best place is just to fill out the information that we have on SeanSwarner.com.
As you've heard tonight a few times, keep climbing. Just keep doing it, and very inspirational words. Sean, it's been a real pleasure to have you in here.
Pleasure's
and,
mine, man.
Good hanging out with you tonight, and I'm looking forward to trying some of that brew now. So
I'll come back in.
Again, we're holding you to it. We're going to get to the final segment of our featured video tonight, and so we're going to see that right now, real quick. Fill us in on what we're gonna see to wrap it up.
I think it is just a wrapping up of everything. I think it kind of ties in everything that I've learned from not just the cancer, but the climbing. And it's an emotional aspect because it does tie in everything. You know, it ties in what I've learned from climbing to the tops of the peaks, what I've learned from battling 2 cancers, you know, and being in a coma for a year of my life. Realizing that people need to realize how lucky they are in life. You know, you have your health, you have your friends, you have your family, you have that moment in time, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. The only thing we're guaranteed is right now. So people have to learn to make the best of it. And I often tell people that I didn't have to climb to the highest mountain in the world and the highest mountain on every continent to find what I was looking for. You know, it's always been right here. And one thing that I always share with people during my presentations is we should not worry about dying, because it's going to happen eventually to everybody. So we should live it up as much as you can. And I tell them we should not worry about dying, but we should worry about not living a life that matters.
Strong words. Well, we appreciate it. Again, Sean, thanks so much for coming in here, man. We're going to see the rest of the video right now. Let's get to it. You're watching Late on 8 on TV8, so keep tuned.
Tears just came flowing out, like, you know, turn on the waterworks, and that was it. Every person who's ever been touched by cancer, or any hardship, period, you know, they were up there with me. You know, I was living proof that anything was possible, and as I was digging a hole in the snow to bury that flag, I was crying. You know, my emotions just overcame my entire body, and I lost it. You know, I knew that this was number 7. This was history in the making. You know, no one ever has had 2 cancers done the 7 summits, 1 lung. I mean, everything that went into this was up there with me.
Every summit that Sean reaches, he has a flag with him, and we put cancer survivors' names on it. So they were essentially with him, pushing him up that mountain. And he could also look at those names and use that as drive. You know, oh, these people are counting on me. You know, I'm here for them, I'm not here for me. And it's more or less an homage to everyone that has been affected by cancer, whether you've been diagnosed, whether or not you were a family member, whether or not it was a best friend. You know, everybody in this world has been touched by cancer at some point in their lives, and that's the driving force behind him.
The Cancer Climber Association, which my brother and I co-founded, is a nonprofit that gives hope to people through inspiring and inspirational stories. And we had this initial idea of developing a number of cancer climber camps around the country, but it hit us, you know, a lot of the kids have compromised immune systems. They can't hop on planes and fly to the camp. You know, they'll get sick, and, you know, a lot of times cancer doesn't kill you. You know, a common cold will, because your immune system's so low. So we had this brilliant idea: instead of bringing the kids to the camp, why can't you bring the camp to the kids? You know, so we're developing, we actually have developed on our website, cancerclimber.org, you can go and see a semi that we're developing that is going to drive around to different children's hospitals and pull up to the parking lot and unfold actually into 6,700 square feet. And this dome, underneath this dome, we're going to have a high ropes course, a movie theater, a climbing wall, a game room, a classroom, and a 2,000 square foot turf area where we're going to put tents where the kids who can camp, you know, can come out of the hospital 30 feet away and go camping. The ones who can't stay there overnight, obviously, the hospital's, you know, 30 feet away. You know, we have the volunteers there, the nurses, the doctors, the people in the communities, and it's going to teach them that you're not sick. You know, you're a normal kid. You know, you're suffering a little setback in your life, but you're not fragile. You know, you're not going to break if you go up a climbing wall. You can do anything that you really put your mind to, and it's going to change the idea that kids have with cancer. We're going to empower them with certain tools to have the confidence to beat cancer and survive through not only cancer, but through life. Also up next, I'm going to trek to the North and South Poles and hopefully be, you know, the first person ever to do that. But climbing the financial mountains is really difficult. Getting sponsorships for that's really difficult. But I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. There's always going to be something else out there, and there's always going to be people touched by cancer. There's always going to be people out there who are battling for their lives. There's always going to be people out there who are going through a tough time.
he sees life in different eyes than most people do. I mean, a lot of people get up in the morning and think, oh, if I can just make it through work. Sean gets up in the morning and says, oh my gosh, another day.
You know, there's a huge difference between being alive and living. You know, everybody's alive, but not everyone's truly living. Why I'm alive? I have no idea. I honestly don't know. But on paper and in medical records, I should be dead many, many times over. You know, I have it good. You know, I'm alive. I have my health. You know, I have my family. I have my friends. You know, I have loved ones who care about me. And that's what's truly important in life.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for our episode of Late on 8 tonight, and thanks so much for joining me this evening. If you want to see another episode, all you got to do is keep it tuned right here to TV8 tomorrow for another episode beginning at 8 p.m. And big thanks going out to my guest, Sean Swarner, and his video, Keep Climbing, and always reminding you to do the same. And you can find out more about him and stay involved with his adventures at cancerclimber.org. So again, big thanks going out to Sean. And I'm your host, Ty Vitale. I'll see you guys again next time. Until then, take care of yourself, and we'll see you later.